Hey everyone, we use words constantly without even thinking about it. But have you ever really stopped and asked yourself, where does the meaning of a word actually come from? It sounds like a simple question, but it's one of the biggest puzzles in philosophy and language. Today, we're going to try to crack it open.
So let's get right to it. Where does the meaning of a word like, say, apple, or and, or something really tricky like believe, where does it live? Is it something out there in the world that our words just point to? Or is it something baked into the very rules of how we talk? That's the big question we're diving into.
And really, it all boils down to two big ideas. On one side, you've got the truth camp. They say a word's meaning is all about what it points to in the real world. The word cat means, well, that furry thing sitting over there. But then you've got the use camp, and they have a totally different take. They say meaning comes from the rules that tell us how a word is supposed to be used. This is the fundamental clash we're going to explore.
Okay, so let's start with the one that probably feels the most intuitive, the classic answer, the truth model. Honestly, this is how most of us just naturally think about what words mean.
Now, the fancy name for this is Model-theoretic semantics, and the idea is pretty straightforward. It says that the meaning of a sentence, like the book is on the table, is just the set of conditions in the world that would make that sentence true. It's like our words are a map, and meaning is the connection between a point on the map and a real place in the world. Makes sense, right?
Well, here's the catch. That map starts getting really messy, really fast. It works great for simple things you can point to, but when we start talking about anything more abstract or complex, the whole system begins to show some serious cracks.
And here's what I mean. First, this model has what experts call a heavy ontological load. That's just a complex way of saying that for every abstract idea, you have to pretend there's some thing out there for it to point to. Like, what thing in the world does the word justice or maybe point to? And what about mental states, like believe? There's no believe object you can hold in your hand. And don't even get me started on context-dependent words like here or now. Their meaning changes constantly. The truth model really struggles with all of this.
So, if that classic model is creaking under the weight of real language, what's the alternative? This is where a challenger steps into the ring, with a completely different approach to the whole problem.
It's called proof-theoretic semantics, or PTS for short, and the shift here is huge. PTS says, forget about connecting words to things in the world. Meaning isn't about what a word points to, it's about the role a word plays in our system of language and reasoning. It's not about truth, it's about rules.
This quote from the research really gets to the heart of it. Meaning comes from inferential roles. It sounds technical, but all it means is that a word's job is defined by our reasoning. What does it allow you to conclude, and under what circumstances are you even allowed to use it in the first place? Think of it like a piece on a chessboard. You know what a knight does, not because it points to a horse, but because you know the specific rules for how it can move and what it can do. In the same way, you know what the word and means because you know exactly how to play it in a sentence.
Okay, so if meaning is just about following the rules, what do these rules actually look like? How does this theory build the entire complex system of meaning from the ground up?
Amazingly, it all comes down to just two basic kinds of rules. First, you have introduction rules. These tell you when you're allowed to use a word. They're the entry conditions. Then you have elimination rules. These tell you what you can conclude once that word is in play. It's the what happens next.
But here's the key. You can't just make up any old rules. For the whole system to work, for our language to be stable and make sense, you need one absolutely critical ingredient. You need harmony. Harmony is this beautiful principle that keeps the two sets of rules, the introductions and the eliminations, perfectly balanced. Basically, the elimination rules can't let you get more out of a word than the introduction rules put in. It's a system of checks and balances for our language, and it's what stops everything from falling into chaos and absurdity.
And here's a perfect example of why this matters so much. A philosopher once invented a word, tonk, with rules that were deliberately out of balance. And it was a disaster. Its rules were so broken that you could use tonk to prove literally anything from anything else. Tonk is like a language-destroying virus. And harmony, well, harmony is the immune system that keeps words like tonk from ever existing. It is the guardian of stable meaning.
Now, I know this might sound a little bit abstract, but the real magic of proof-theoretic semantics is just how incredibly well it explains the tricky bits of language we use every single day. So let's see this theory in action.
So let's take a simple word like and. PTS gives a beautiful, clean explanation.
The meaning of and is just its rules. The introduction rule. If you know A is true and you know B is true, then you can say A and B. The elimination rule. If you know A and B is true, you can conclude A is true and you can conclude B is true. That's it. That's the entire meaning. No need to go searching for some and object out in the universe.
And this is where PTS really starts to shine. It gives us a way to finally define the meaning of all those difficult words that tripped up the old model. Those mental states like believe or seek, the complex ideas like what makes a beautiful house, even those expressions that change with context. They can all be defined by their unique set of rules, their own special inferential roles, without needing that heavy ontological load.
So, when you put this all together, what do you get? It's more than just another theory. It's a totally different way of looking at language itself, a fundamental shift in perspective.
This chart really lays it all out. The classic model, model-theoretic semantics, asks, what does it point to? It sees meaning as a map between our words and the world. But proof-theoretic semantics asks a totally different question. How do you use it? It sees meaning as a recipe, a set of instructions for how to operate inside a system.
And that, right there, is the big takeaway. We're shifting our focus away from asking, is this statement true in the world? And we're starting to ask, what are the rules of the game we're playing with this word? Meaning isn't something we find out there. It's something we build together through the rules and conventions we all agree to follow.
And that leaves us with one last kind of mind-bending thought. If every single word we use is just a piece in an incredibly complex game defined entirely by its rules, then what's the point of the game we're all playing? And who or what wrote the rulebook in the first place? It's a whole new way to think about every conversation you have from now on, something to chew on.